In the heart of a verdant African village nestled beneath the watchful eyes of towering baobabs lived a young woman named Anya. Unlike her peers who were content with the rhythms of daily life, Anya was driven by an insatiable curiosity about the world beyond the village. She was particularly fascinated by the tales of the elders, the whispered legends that painted a world of magic, spirits, and creatures of the night. Anya's confidant was Ife, a girl with feet firmly planted in reality. While Anya soared in the realms of imagination, Ife provided the balance, often grounding her friend with practical advice. Yet, even Ife couldn't resist the allure of the stories, especially when told by Elder Nduka, the village's repository of wisdom. One evening, as the moon cast its silvery glow over the village, Anya found herself drawn to Elder Nduka's hut. The old man was frail, his eyes holding the depths of centuries. As Anya approached, he looked up, his gaze piercing. "You come seeking the truth, Anya," he said, his voice a low rumble. Anya's heart pounded. "The truth about the legends, Elder?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Elder Nduka nodded, his face etched with lines of wisdom and perhaps a touch of weariness. Many believe the tales of the Mami Wata, the river spirit, to be mere fables. But the truth, child, is far more complex. He began to speak, his voice weaving a tapestry of ancient knowledge. The Mami Wata, he revealed, was not simply a benevolent water spirit. In times of old, she was a powerful deity, capable of both creation and destruction. But as humans grew in number and their greed increased, the Mami Wata withdrew, her once nurturing nature turning to wrath. "And the Ogbanje," Anya interjected, her voice filled with awe and fear. These were children believed to be reincarnated spirits who died shortly after birth, only to return to torment their families. Elder Nduka sighed. "The Ogbanje, yes, they are not evil as many believe. They are souls trapped in a cycle of pain and longing. Often, they are the spirits of children who died unnatural deaths, their souls unable to find peace." As the night deepened, Elder Nduka shared more tales, each one painting a picture of a world far more intricate and terrifying than the simplified versions told to children. There were the Egungun, the masked spirits of ancestors who were not always benevolent, the Iwin, twin spirits who could bring both fortune and misfortune, and the leopard men, shapeshifters who preyed on the innocent. Anya listened, her mind racing. The world she had known seemed to be unraveling before her eyes. The comforting blanket of familiar myths was being replaced by a chilling reality. Days later, a stranger arrived in the village. His name was Onyeka, and he possessed an uncanny knowledge of the legends, almost as if he lived them. Anya was drawn to him, sensing a kindred spirit. Onyeka confirmed much of what Elder Nduka had said, but added layers of complexity to the stories. He spoke of the dark side of magic, of the powerful forces that could be unleashed if not handled with care. He warned of ancient rituals that could awaken dormant evils. Anya was both terrified and exhilarated. Knowledge was power, but it was also a heavy burden to bear. As Anya delved deeper into the world of dark legends, she began to see the village in a new light. The old woman who was said to be a witch might have been a healer misunderstood. The child who died mysteriously could have been a victim of the Ogbanje. The line between myth and reality blurred, and Anya found herself walking a tightrope between fascination and fear. The once comforting world of folklore had transformed into a shadowy realm where nothing was as it seemed. Onyeka's presence cast a long, unsettling shadow over the village. He was a man of enigma, his eyes holding depths of knowledge and perhaps something darker. Anya and Ife, drawn by an insatiable curiosity and a growing sense of dread, began to observe him closely. They noticed peculiar rituals performed under the cover of night, the eerie glow of candles illuminating his hut. There were whispers of strange symbols etched into the walls, and the disappearance of animals coincided with his arrival. Fear began to seep into the hearts of the villagers. Crops withered, livestock vanished without a trace, and an eerie silence descended upon the once vibrant community. Children's laughter, once a familiar melody, was replaced by hushed whispers and fearful glances. Elder Nduka, his frail body seeming to wither further with each passing day, warned of impending doom. "The balance is tipping," he said, his voice trembling. "Ancient forces are stirring, and Onyeka is their catalyst." Anya felt a growing sense of responsibility. She knew she had to uncover the truth, to understand the darkness that was creeping into their lives. With Ife by her side, she started to delve deeper into the village's history, searching for clues, for any hint of what was to come. One moonless night, driven by a desperate courage, Anya approached Onyeka's hut. Her heart pounded in her chest as she peered through a crack in the wall. Inside, the hut was bathed in an otherworldly light. Onyeka stood at a makeshift altar, surrounded by strange objects and flickering candles. He was chanting in a language Anya didn't recognize, his voice echoing with a power that chilled her to the bone. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Anya froze, her breath caught in her throat. Onyeka stood in the doorway, his eyes glowing with an unnatural intensity. "You should not have come, Anya," he said, his voice a low, menacing growl. What would Anya do? Confront him or flee? The fate of the village hung in the balance. Anya's heart pounded like a war drum. Fear and adrenaline warred within her, but a flicker of defiance ignited in her eyes. She stood her ground, her voice steady despite the tremor within. "Why?" she demanded, her voice barely a whisper above the night's silence. "Why are you doing this to our village?" Onyeka's lips curled into a sinister smile, revealing a set of sharp, almost inhuman teeth. His eyes, once filled with an eerie glow, now seemed to darken further. "Doing?" he echoed, his voice laced with contempt. "This village is a blight, a festering wound on the earth. It must be cleansed." His words sent a shiver down Anya's spine. Cleansing? What did he mean? Before she could question him further, a dark energy surged from Onyeka, enveloping him in a sinister aura. The air crackled with electricity, and the once familiar night sky twisted into an ominous crimson hue. If, who had been watching from a distance, burst from the shadows. "Anya, run!" she screamed, her voice filled with terror. But Anya couldn't move. She was rooted to the spot, her gaze locked on Onyeka. Something within her, a spark of courage she didn't know she possessed, compelled her to stay. This was her village, her home, and she would not abandon it without a fight. As the dark energy intensified, Onyeka raised his arms, and a guttural cry echoed through the night. The ground trembled, and a sinister wind howled through the village. Anya felt a surge of power within herself, a counterforce to the darkness. It was as if the ancient legends, the stories of heroes and protectors, were coursing through her veins. She met Onyeka's gaze, her own eyes burning with a determination that surprised even herself. "You will not harm this village," she declared, her voice filled with a strength she had never known. The confrontation had begun. The fate of the village, and perhaps something more, hung in the balance. Onyeka's eyes narrowed, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Then his expression hardened into a mask of pure malice. With a guttural roar, he lunged at her, his outstretched hands reaching for her throat. Anya, driven by instinct, raised her hands in defense. A surge of energy erupted from her palms, meeting Onyeka's with a blinding flash of light. The ground shook as the two forces collided, sending shockwaves through the night air. The clash between light and darkness was a spectacle of raw power. Trees uprooted themselves, and the river swelled, its waters churning with unnatural force. The village was caught in the crossfire, buildings trembling as if caught in an earthquake. Eve, her eyes wide with fear and awe, watched the battle unfold. She knew she had to help, but how? She was no warrior, no protector. Yet, a surge of determination filled her. She would not stand by and watch her friend perish. Gathering her courage, Eve ran towards the conflict, her heart pounding in her chest. As she drew closer, she saw that Anya was struggling. Onyeka had gained the upper hand, his dark energy overwhelming her light. Eve knew she had to do something, and fast. Desperation fueled her actions as she reached into her pocket, pulling out a small worn amulet. It was a gift from Elder Nduka, a symbol of protection. With trembling hands, she held it up, channeling her fear and hope into it. A soft glow emanated from the amulet, enveloping Eve in a protective bubble. She took a deep breath and ran towards the battle, her heart filled with a newfound courage. Would Eve's intervention be enough to turn the tide, or would darkness consume the village? Eve's heart pounded like a drumbeat in her ears. As she approached the epicenter of the battle, the sheer scale of the conflict was overwhelming. Anya was struggling, her form flickering in and out of view, engulfed in a blinding white light. Onyeka, a shadowy figure, seemed to grow larger with each passing moment, his laughter, a chilling, inhuman sound echoing through the night. The amulet, warmed by the intensity of her fear and determination, pulsed with a soft, ethereal glow. It was as if the ancient spirits of the village were rallying to her side. With a deep breath, Eve hurled the amulet towards the heart of the chaos. As the amulet soared through the air, it expanded, transforming into a shimmering, protective shield. It enveloped both Anya and Onyeka, trapping them in a sphere of light. The battle raged within the sphere, a mesmerizing display of elemental forces. Anya, empowered by the amulet's energy, fought with renewed vigor. Her light grew brighter, pushing back the darkness that surrounded Onyeka. With a final, desperate surge, she unleashed a blinding beam of light, striking Onyeka directly. There was a moment of silence, broken only by the panting of the two young women. Onyeka was gone, vanished without a trace. The storm subsided, the wind died down, and the crimson sky began to fade, replaced by the familiar, comforting darkness of night. Exhausted but triumphant, Anya and Eve collapsed into each other's arms. The battle was over, the village was saved. As dawn approached, casting its first rays of hope over the battered landscape, they looked at each other, their eyes filled with a mixture of relief and awe. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. But their journey was far from over. The secrets of the village, the ancient legends, still held many unanswered questions. And as the sun rose, casting long shadows over the rebuilt village, Anya and Eve knew that their adventure was far from over. Would you like to explore the aftermath of the battle, or perhaps delve deeper into the ancient legends?